our next speaker, time for another journey. Motivational speaker, right? Motivational Strategies for Women Leaders in Education by Darren August. Who is Darren? Okay. Darren August is a dynamic managing director, entrepreneur, corporate trainer, and motivational speaker with 15 years of experience in developing and delivering training programs, empowering aspiring authors, and leading successful business ventures. He founded DES Consulting CC in February 2009, where he has been instrumental in creating and implementing outsourced soft skills training programs for large corporate companies. Darren's expertise extends to team building, staff development, marketing, finance, administration, project management, and consulting. He is a respected figure in the Johannesburg area, known for his innovative approaches and impactful training sessions. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Let's see this. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Is this microphone the best one you've got? Can you guys hear me clearly? 1, 2. This one's better. Good morning.
Good morning.
Is it afternoon already? I was up at 5 o'clock this morning. I jumped out of bed and I was like, yes, it's here. I'm so excited. I want to assure you I would be nowhere else than right here in this room right now with every single one of you. And sitting in the back and just listening to the presentations that have gone, I wanted to say to Benny, like, why did you even invite me? You should have just got me to come with a backing track and I could have just sang, you're once, twice, 3 times a lady. I could have just done that. But it's such a privilege to be the thorn among the roses today. And so there's something very important I have to do before I start. And I've got these notes on my phone. So I'm going to ask you just to stand for a moment. Everybody in the room, please stand. Alright, so I've got 3 sets of instructions on my phone. Alright, the first instruction says, in a moment, I'm going to count to 3. And when I get to 3, do you all know the alphabet?
Yes.
Alright, so when I get to 3, everybody in the room is going to clap the alphabet without saying the letters. Alright, so you'll be saying the alphabet in your mind and you'll be clapping it. Alright. Instruction number 2 says, it's a race to the end. So that means we want to see who gets to the end of the alphabet first. Are we still together? So that means you're going to clap it as fast as you can. And then instruction number 3, this is the most important one, and it says, when you get to the end of the alphabet, you need to do something visible that shows everyone else in the room that you are excited to be here, that you're ready to take on the world, that you are the best leader in your sphere of leadership. So it needs to be something visible, like a fist pump or woohoo! Some of you might smile for the first time today, but something visible. Alright, you can go as crazy as you like. Are we together? Yes. So on the count of 3, everybody's going to clap the alphabet really fast. When you get to the end of the alphabet, you're going to go absolutely crazy. Are we ready? Yes. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. So in case you were wondering what that was actually about, I was just getting my little video clip for Facebook. As soon as I leave, I'm going to put it up and say, you guys gave me a standing ovation before I even started. So the year was 2014, exactly 10 years ago. And a very specific video clip went viral on social media. And at the time, it wasn't common to see such video clips. Some of you might remember this video clip. It was of a learner in a school beating up the teacher with a broom. The rest of the class laughed. The teacher was extremely humiliated, ended up running out of the classroom, and that video clip went viral. The whole world saw that. Immediately, the leadership in education in South Africa jumped, obviously a little bit reactive, and started asking the question, how do we bring back discipline in our schools? I was driving in my car and I heard the Minister of Education's spokesperson on the radio talking about a conference that would be held to address discipline in schools. that conference was held at this very venue, in this very room, 10 years ago. The day before the conference, I called him up and I said, can I come to this conference, please? And he says, who are you? I said, my name is Darren August. And he says, are you a teacher? Are you a principal? And I said, no, but I would just love to be in the room and see if I could possibly make a difference. My email went from pillar to post, and eventually I got a reply that said I could come. And I walked into this room. It was probably double the size. This divider was off. I remember it like it was yesterday. Over 1,000 delegates in the room. Everybody who was the who's who in education. 2-day conference. And on the second day, I remember sitting in the back of the room. At the time, I was one of the youngest people in the room. And I saw a young lady in the room there in her school uniform. And perhaps she had the opportunity to attend the conference. And our eyes connected, and I could see she had something on her heart. And so I nodded and I said, go for it. She raised her hand. The MC spotted her and he said, do you have something to say, young lady? And she said, yes. So she stood up, and in front of 1,000 adults, this is what she said. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I feel that it's my responsibility to say something on behalf of all of the learners I represent. We've been discussing so many different issues and highlighting so many of the problems in our schools, but we're failing to look at one area: our teachers. As learners, we go through so much at home. Some of us don't have parents. We live with our grandparents who can't read or write. Our parents have just left us. Some of our parents have died. Some of us don't even know our parents. Some of us are abused at home by the same people who are supposed to love us and care for us. Home is not a nice place, and we spend most of our days at school. But then we come to school and our teachers say, I'm not your mother, I'm not your father. How's that supposed to make us feel? They say they don't have time for us. We just need to focus on our schoolwork. How's that supposed to make us feel? When I come to school, I need you to be a mother to me. I need you to be a father to me. I need you to teach me about life and how to be a better person. If my teachers aren't there for me, it makes me go out into the street and look for help somewhere else. We look to you for guidance. We want you to help us become better people. Home is hell, and I think of school as my second home. We do our work, and we try our best, and sometimes we just need you to see that. We just want you to encourage us. We just want you to love us and to love teaching us. You teachers are our leaders. Please be our example. That's all we ask. And then she sat down. And when she sat down, the silence in that room was as deafening as the silence in here right now. And something inside of me moved, and I thought, could I do something about this? Could I possibly become a voice in this country that will accept any invitation and grab any opportunity and any platform where I have an opportunity to interact with teachers and let you know that every single day you have the opportunity to create defining moments and to unleash the greatness inside of these young people. And so I know today I'm addressing a group of leaders, but before you got to have that title of principal and HOD and deputy, you're a teacher.
Yes.
And so above everything that I say today, I'm really here to speak to your heart. And so 2016, or straight after that, I launched my book. And I thought, how do I get this message across? How do I tell this and how do I share this message? And it took me back to grade 2. I don't know if you remember, but when I was in grade 2, there was this subject called recitation. Do you remember recitation? You would get up in front of the class and you would make sure you've got good posture, and then you would say a little poem. Mice. I think mice are rather nice. Their tails are long, their faces small. They haven't any chance. You can see I did that very well. And then I got my report at the end of grade 2, and guess what I got for recitation? 30 out of 10. Nice. Exactly. That's how my mom's face looked also, like, yeah, 13 out of 10. And you know how parents are. They speak about the teacher at home. They say, she's teaching my child maths, but she can't count. How do you give a child 13 out of 10? But on the first day of the next year, my mom was walking me to my new class, and she saw my grade 2 teacher in the corridor, and she said, I just want to understand, how do you explain that 13 out of 10 that you gave Darren? And my teacher said, I want to leave it that way because this child has an above average ability to speak in public. Nice. And recitation is just preparation for public speaking later on. 7 years old, grade 2, destiny defined in a classroom by a teacher. And what do I do for a living today? I'm a speaker, I'm an MC, I'm a coach, I'm a former TV presenter, radio presenter. Everything I've ever had to do involves me getting up and presenting myself confidently in front of an audience, and I don't know if I would do it if my grade 2 teacher didn't recognize that potential and And so, after launching my book, which is called A Teacher Changed My Life, this is what my life started looking like. And so I travel the country, and it's literally been 10 years that I've been doing this and speaking to teachers and educators just around the importance of this role. And in 2016, I was invited to a school in Mpumalanga. And when I got there, I thought I was going to a high school. And the principal said to me, I want you to speak to my school, then the teachers, and then tomorrow you'll speak to the entire community. And as I drove in, I saw the branding on the school, and it said, Diva Park Primary, and I thought, oh my goodness, what am I going to say? And he says to me, your first talk is going to be to the grade R's and the grade 1s and the grade 2s, the foundation phase. And I said, what am I going to say? And so I was there, and what I did was, I quickly said, okay, give me 5 minutes. I drove to a shop, I found an apple, and then I had this little talk with the grade R's at the time, and it looked something like that. So there was me in front of this audience of kids, and I took out this apple, and I cut the little apple, and I said, guys, what's inside this apple? And they all said, a seed, and I said, that's beautiful. And then I said, do you know that just like this apple, everybody in this room has a seed inside of them? And this seed is called a seed of greatness. And they all got onto the list, and I said, okay, everybody stand up and say, I have a seed of greatness. And they all said, I have a seed of greatness. And then I said, turn to the person next to you and tell them, you have a seed of greatness. And they all did that. And then I was so amazed, because I was just happy that I got through the speaking engagement. But that evening, I was busy setting up my laptop and getting ready for my presentation to the parents. And one of the little boys who was in the room in the morning, he was there with his mom, and I was busy setting up, and in the back of my eye, I saw him in the back of the room there, and he pulled his mom up to me and he said, come, Mom. And then he pulled his mom up to where I was standing, stood right in front of me, and he put his shoulders back and he said, sir, I have a seed of greatness. And then he said, Mom, today this sir taught me I have a seed of greatness. And in that moment, I was so moved, and I thought, imagine if that message resonated so much with this little boy. How many others need to do that? And I was reminded just about how powerful and what a significant place the classroom is. And I thought, imagine what our children can do tomorrow if they discover their greatness today. And so as leaders in schools, and as teachers and as educators, you are the captain of that ship. And whether your ship is the school or the classroom, doesn't matter. But every single day you have the opportunity to create those defining moments. And so the question started boggling my mind is, how do we unleash the greatness in our young people these days? How do we get them to be all that they are meant to be? And the answer is a very simple one. It lies in the answer to this question. Why am I here? Every person walking the face of the earth right now today is simply looking for the answer to this question. Think about it. Some of us in this room are in our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, and we're still looking for the answer to this question. But here's a profession that was created where for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, you have a captive audience of young minds who listen to you, who believe every word you say. When you say the sky is gray, and mom and dad at home say the sky is blue, what do they say to mom and dad? Teacher said it. And so when teacher says I'm stupid, I might just believe it. When teacher says I'll never amount to anything, I might just believe it. We've heard it earlier on, I think it was either Leonie that said, teaching is the one profession that creates every other. You cannot be a doctor if you haven't gone through a teacher. You cannot be a lawyer if you haven't gone through a teacher. And so it's so important that we understand the role and the value of this profession, and that's why I've made it my mission. And so how do we get to the place where we start unleashing this greatness in our young people again? We need to understand and know the voices that our kids are exposed to today. And so some of those voices, the first one is media. You know, the average child spends approximately 38 hours a week exposed to media outside of home and school. They're on TikTok, they're on Facebook, they're on all of the social media platforms. And so that voice has become so loud in their ears, in their minds, that it's becoming harder for us to override that noise and to influence even more. The second one is peers. Do you know that a study conducted in the US has determined that by the age of 12, their peers have more influence and more say than their parents and their teachers, than any adult? If you want to know how they learn, their friends are teaching them. They think their friends have more answers than the adults in their lives. The other very influential voice is teachers. 83% of students will say a teacher helped improve their confidence and their self-esteem. I just shared with you my story about grade 2. When I got to grade 9, my English teacher, her name was Miss Sutherland, and she decided that she was so tired of our English marks being so poor. And so what she did that year, she said, I'm going to initiate a concept where every single Friday, every one of you needs to hand in a journal. So a journal was, you know, those A5 hardcover books? Yes. And she said, you can write whatever you like in your journal as long as you hand it in. And if you do so, I will give you 10% towards your term marks. So I'll just keep note, and at the end of the term, you'll get a free 10%. And I was like, yo, mahala for free, no problem. So my first journal entry went like this. Dear journal, had a nice week, sharp, and I handed it in. But what was so amazing was what she did. She would spend her whole weekend writing back to every single one of us who handed in a journal. And so she would write back something like, Dear Darren, glad to hear you had a good week, keep smiling, you're doing well, sharp, and she'd hand it back. And so what do you think happened? As time went on, we started trusting this journal concept. We knew that there was somebody who cared about us. And so one of my journal entries in the middle of that year went like this. Dear journal, it's been another tough week at home. It's now been 3 years that my dad hasn't been working. And I can see that it's starting to put some pressure on my mom. On Sunday, she sent us with a letter to a neighbor down the road to ask for some food. And I could see in her eyes how embarrassed she was. I hope things will get better soon. And my teacher wrote back and she says, Dear Darren, I'm so sorry to hear that it's so tough right now. I'm sure your parents are trying their best. You can ease the pressure by just doing your best and doing your work. I'm praying for you. She gave it back. And then later that year, towards the end of the year, my journal entry went like this. Dear journal, I think I'm in love. I think I want to marry Odell with the long black hair. And my teacher wrote back and she says to me, I'm sure that's a lovely feeling, but there's plenty of time for that later. Rather focus on your schoolwork, just be friends. And then she said, try to be a man that a woman would be proud to call her husband one day. Yes. And so when I met my wife and we got married and we moved into our first place, when I was packing up all of my stuff at home, I found my journal and I showed it to my wife and I said, look at the life lessons that I learned in an A5 book. She didn't have to call me and say, come here young man, let me tell you about the birds and the bees, here's a condom, you need to compromise. None of that. All she did was take the time to care. And as a result of a little statement in a book, I wanted to be a better person. Why am I telling you all of this? Because this is what you can do every single day. This is the power that lies in your hand. And then the next big voice is parents. But here's the sad reality, and I'm sure some of us are even guilty of this. But in South Africa, only 5% of parents have recorded spending at least 30 minutes a day engaging in any sort of activity or school activity with their children. We know life is demanding. And so as a result, the end users of all of this, the reason you're here today is because you've chosen this profession. And yet, the ones who suffer the most and get the shortest end of the stick often ends up being the learners. And then some really scary statistics is after COVID-19, literally we've now started seeing PTSD and other mental health issues as early as 7 years old. So our kids are going through the most. And that's probably why we have some of the situations we have in our schools, yeah? I read a beautiful quote that says, you don't raise heroes, you raise sons and daughters. And if you treat them like sons and daughters, they'll turn out to be heroes, and even if that's only in your eyes. And so I feel like that absolutely just encapsulates what the teaching profession is about. And so how do we navigate these changing times, and how do we get to the place where we really keep the main thing, and keep the focus on our young people again? And so I want to share with you just 3 simple strategies that you can implement. And I know there's been so much that has been shared already, and I'll probably touch on a couple of things that have been said already. And I've shared my presentation as well, so you will be receiving that as well. But simply is look up, look in, and look out. And if you just remember those, I think it will probably sink in. And so when I talk about look up, it's so important these days that we get back to basics and pray for our kids. And I know we all have different beliefs. I know we all don't subscribe to the same religious beliefs. That's totally fine. But I believe every single person can pray. And can pray for our children. And even if that prayer is just a word that you speak over them of positivity. But we all have the ability to affect the atmosphere with our words. And then it's so important to pray for ourselves. Pray for yourself. I think Mavis absolutely said it beautifully. Is that you are no good to anybody if you are not taking care of yourself first. And so it's so important that we ask for wisdom again, we ask for guidance, because as much as teaching is the most powerful profession, it's the hardest profession right now. And then sometimes we just need to be still, quiet the noise, so that we can remember what's important and focus again on why it is that we do what we do. And when we do that, you'll be so surprised at how you will actually get strategy. Sometimes in the stillness is where you are going to discover the answers and the strategy of how to navigate and lead your team and lead your school and solve some of the issues and the problems that our young people encounter every single day. And then the next one is to look in. So once you've looked up, it really is about making that connection again with God. But then look in is about really introspecting. And so here, again, we've heard this so much today, take care of yourself. And the strategy of how to navigate and lead your team and lead your school and solve some of the issues and the problems that our young people encounter every single day. And then the next one is to look in. So once you've looked up, it really is about making that connection again with God. But then look in is about really introspecting. And so here, again, we've heard this so much today, take care of yourself. We do not want to find ourselves being that leader where they say good riddance to bad rubbish. Let that not be your story. Let that not be how you go down. Deal with you. I think that's so important, because some of us have so much baggage that we bring to the table every single day that we're afraid to tackle. And I think, again, I would just be repeating what Mavis and some of the other speakers have said. I think that message has been driven home beautifully already. And then just remember, again, let's prioritize the main thing, and the main thing will always be our children. That's why we do what we do. And then the third one is to look out. And by look out, it really is about TLC. Have you all heard the concept of TLC? So TLC for me is talk, lead, and collaborate. And so by talk, when I was writing my book, I spoke to so many learners, and I thought, if I'm going to write this book to try and inspire the teachers, wouldn't it make sense to ask learners what they are looking for? What they would like to hear from their teachers, what they would like to hear from adults. And so I narrowed it down and summarized it into 10 things I believe children still need to hear a lot more of at school. And they are simply, well done. Our kids don't hear well done anymore. They just move on to the next thing and move on to the next thing and go for the next goal and go for the next result. The next one is, are you okay? My wife was 16 years old in grade 11. One night, During the school holidays, she was sleeping in the cottage in their backyard. Her cousin was visiting for the school holidays. 1 o'clock in the morning, she was woken up by a loud knock on the door. It was her brother, her older brother, screaming at the door. Open up, open up, open up. And she woke up out of this deep sleep, rushed to the door, opened the door and said, what's the matter? And he was on the floor screaming, and he said the words that would change their lives forever. He said, I think Daddy just shot Mommy. And she said, it can't be. Go back and check. He went back, returned 2 minutes later to confirm that that night her dad had shot and killed her mother, and then turned the gun on himself and took his own life. 17 years old in grade 11. I know that's heart-wrenching, but you know what's even more saddening? Is that she was in school for another year and a half after that. And do you know that in all that time, not a single teacher at school ever walked up to her and said, are you okay? She would walk up and down the corridors every single day, and all she would hear was whispers. There's that girl, there's that girl. Did you see? It's her father. Here is this child in a child-headed household, which is not unique in South Africa anymore. Yeah? Her story is no longer unique. And not a single teacher at school stepped up and said, are you okay? Because we are so concerned with the admin, and we are so concerned with the pass rate, and we are so concerned with submitting our stats. The next one is, how are things at home? How are things at school? Those questions will give so much insight into what is happening with young people today. You can do it, you're valuable, don't give up, I love you, I'm sorry. Our kids don't hear I'm sorry, they don't hear that there's greatness inside of them anymore. I don't know if this is what you came to hear, but this is what I've come to give you. And this is the cry of the hearts of children, youth in school today.